Welcome, everybody, to the fourth edition of the Console King podcast. Yes, I am going solo again because every time I have guests on my podcast, it just doesn't end well, becomes a clusterfuck. So I decided to go solo again for this podcast. Now, if someone special wants to come in and talk with me, like, I don't know, like a Bullet Barry or a Fringy or a Rags even, and even Top Hats and Champagne, if anyone special wants to become a guest on my show, then I'd probably let them on. But these stupid idiots on my Discord, that just random assholes that I just let on to my podcast, I'm probably going to stop doing that. I'm all for fan interaction. I'm all for, interacting with my fans as much as possible. But these people are just idiots. I mean, like, this dude was talking over me the entire time, forgetting that this is my show, not his. And people were just talking over me and just being cancerous as hell. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to withhold from having a, podcast with multiple guests at a time. Like I said, if someone specific offers to come into my podcast, anyone from the Game Talk podcast or any of those other people I've mentioned, like Rags even, and those other people, I'd be down for that. But other than that, if it's just some random fucking person, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I don't really want them on my podcast because it's very rare to find a random person that's actually very respectful and isn't just like a complete moron, I guess. But I want to talk about a few topics for this podcast. There's plenty of good news stories that have been breaking out that is worth discussing. So let's talk about the, I guess, biggest story out of the bunch that I want to discuss, that it just gives me more fuel for my argument as to why console gaming is better than PC gaming and why consoles have more freedom than PCs. So I'm sure all of you have heard of the Xbox Game Pass. And in case you haven't heard of it, I'll give you the rundown. Basically, the Xbox Game Pass is a subscription service on the Xbox One that gives you access to over 100 games for $10 a month. Basically, the way it works is it's very different to PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now, something I've spoken out against before, it's basically a Netflix for video games. So you pay a certain amount a month, and you stream the games through your system. So you can stream PlayStation 3 games, you could stream PS4 games, you could stream a whole bunch of different games from generations. And that's the best Sony can come up with backwards compatibility, is to stream PS3 games, not actually be able to own it. And the whole PlayStation Now thing is just a joke. I think it's ridiculous. And, it's not my job to defend everything that Sony and Microsoft does. It's not. My job is to defend consoles as a whole, as a medium, from the PC. That's what my job is, not to defend every single thing that Sony and Microsoft does. I'm not here to defend PlayStation Now because I think PlayStation Now is AIDS. I don't like PlayStation Now. I think it's a terrible idea. It's not the future of gaming. People call PlayStation Now the future of gaming because, you're able to stream games. Look, the gaming industry is very different from the movie and TV industry, okay? With movies and TV shows, streaming is very easy and it's very practical. But for video games, not necessarily, okay? There's some people where it takes a long fucking time. There's a huge population, okay, that they have online access, but it's not very good, okay? Meaning they're able to download games and they're able to do, online. They have online capabilities, but at the same time, they can't really use it efficiently. Like, their download times take a long fucking time. And with this streaming service, PlayStation Now, you need a pretty solid internet connection to be able to stream games. There's some people that can't even run games, like, without streaming it. Never mind streaming the games. Like, I don't like PlayStation Now. And people are saying, that I don't think the industry needs a Netflix type subscription service. I just don't. But The Xbox Game Pass is very different in that there's no streaming involved whatsoever. Instead, what you do is that the over 100 games you can access, which I looked at the website. Some of those games that you have access to include Halo 5, Saints Row 4, Soul Calibur 2, which is a pretty old game, but it's probably the best Soul Calibur game ever released. Gears of War 4, Payday 2, and there's a whole bunch of other games, but they didn't reveal the full list of games yet. But basically, they confirmed that it contains a list of Xbox One games as well as Xbox 360 backwards compatibility games. So that's cool. So it's not just from one generation, it's from multiple generations. And besides that, what's another cool thing about it? Oh, yeah. There's no streaming. You can download the games. So the games are actually downloaded to your hard drive. Now, I guess some people would argue that the benefit of being able to stream game is that you don't have to download it and it doesn't require hard drive space. I get that. But downloading the game is more practical for me because, I mean, I have a decent internet connection, but I like being able to actually download the games and not have to stream it. Because if I'm streaming a game and live streaming a game, that's going to dip anybody's frame rate, right? Even if you have the best connection, if you're doing a shit ton of things at once, your performance is going to dip at least a bit, right? So that's why I don't like the whole streaming games thing. I don't care for it at all. But being able to actually download the game is cool, and it's smart because Microsoft doesn't have to invest a shit ton of money into having a streaming service when there's not really much demand for it. You know what I mean? So it only makes sense for Microsoft to go this route where you have to download all of your games. And some people, I guess there might be a few people that prefer the streaming, but I don't know how anyone can prefer the streaming over the downloading. But it gets better than that, though. Okay, so I mentioned that you have access to over 100 games for about $10 a month, which is a great deal. Okay, but on top of that, if you want to actually be able to own the game, so let's say, okay, so Halo 5 is one of the games that you can get in the subscription service, in the Xbox Game Pass, right? Well, let's say you want to actually be able to own the game because you just want to be able to own it and you don't want to have to worry about, maybe Microsoft potentially pulling the game from the list of games available in the Game Pass. Like, because Sony, you can be playing a game that you enjoy right now on PlayStation Now, but Sony can instantly pull the game. Just like how, you want to watch a TV series on Netflix, boom, it gets pulled out. So to prevent that from happening, if you're really worried about that, if you really like a game so much, guess what you could do? So you can get up to 20% off discounts on your games. You can get discounts on the games that are available in the Game Pass, but you want to buy the full version. So on top of paying the $10 a month subscription, you get even more discounts than you already get if you have the Xbox Game Pass. And it just makes sense because to get the Game Pass, and I probably will get the Game Pass when it comes out, because it's very, very, very consumer friendly. It beats the shit out of what Sony's offering right now, and it saves you money. So this just proves, again, that consoles have more freedom than PCs. I know people do not want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, but it's the truth, and it always will be the truth. Like, I had so many examples to prove why consoles have more freedom than PCs in my second and third Console King podcast, right? I talked about, the physical market, getting discounts on digital games and the Amazon sales and everything, right? All that shit I mentioned, remember that? Well, I have another example to prove that I'm right. Not that I ever doubted that I was right, but now I have even more proof. You have a subscription service to have access to all these games, and you have discounts on the games if you want to upgrade to the full version. It's just another option for console gamers to play their games. It's amazing. It's great. And it just proves that the whole PC versus console thing, whether or not PC has more freedom than consoles or whether it's a better value than consoles, it's not very black and white. It's not black and white. It's not as black and white as the media and as, the PC fanboys like to put it out to be. It's not. Because if you actually go out and compare it, instead of just being like, well, obviously PC has more freedom because you have Steam and you have all these other options. Well, in terms of options you have to buy games digitally, you have a shit ton of options, and you also have the physical market. So, like I said, it's not as black and white as people make it out to be. Anyone who's trying to say it's very clear that PC has more freedom than console is very biased, and they're a fanboy. They're an obvious fanboy, and nothing they should say should be taken seriously. So, I think that pretty much covers the whole Game Pass thing. I just wanted to get that out of the way because that was the top story I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure it's the top story that people wanted to hear from me, so I decided to put it first. But if you want to stick around and hear me talk about other things, I'm going to briefly talk about the Nintendo Switch launch. I'm going to talk about other things related to Nintendo, and I'm also going to talk about JTech TV and the PlayStation Legion towards the end of the podcast. So if you want to stick around for that, stick around. But if you don't, then you don't. It is what it is. I don't care. But let's move on to the next topic, which is about the Nintendo Switch launch. So I guess you could say the Nintendo Switch had a successful launch. As of the recording of this video, of the podcast, Nintendo Switch was released yesterday. And people are saying that the Switch is going to be a success because it's sold out. And you can't really find any units anymore. Now, people are mistaken with this because that doesn't necessarily mean that the console is going to succeed throughout its life cycle, because all it means is that Nintendo didn't have enough supply. That doesn't necessarily mean that the console is a huge hit and it's a huge success. There's a key difference in that. Like, I think that if a console didn't sell out at launch, then it would be very pathetic. Right, I think it should be standard for a console or for a system to sell out when it first launches. That's what happened with the PlayStation 4, although the Switch will never be as successful as the PS4. I don't think anyone will think that it could be as successful as the PS4. If I had to make any projections about how successful the Switch will be, I would say probably in between the Wii U and the GameCube in terms of units sold, and I think that's a safe estimate to make. Maybe it'll even surpass the GameCube. I don't know. But right now there's so much hype behind the Switch, and you know what? That's actually a good sign, because when the Wii U came out, there was zero hype whatsoever. Zero. You didn't even see any commercials for the Wii U on TV when it came out. I maybe saw one or two, like back in 2012 when it came out, right? But I see plenty of Switch commercials all the time, and there's plenty of hype around the Switch, which is a good thing. I think people are generally saying that the Switch is a good console. But the reason why I'm not going to stop attacking the Switch is simply because of the lack of third-party support. It's very apparent that the Switch isn't going to have very much third-party support. It's underpowered, and I know people would be like, well, you're a console gamer. Why are you complaining about something being underpowered? Well, the thing about the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One's capabilities, people like to complain and say that the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One aren't powerful enough and blah, 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 blah. Well, the reason why I don't have much of a problem with it is that the system came out in 2013, okay? But the thing about the Switch is that it's less powerful than the base PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, not even PlayStation 4 Pro and Scorpio. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about the base models. The original PS4 and original Xbox One that came out in 2013. Yeah, the Switch underperforms those consoles that came out in 2013. That's 4 years ago. And the Switch is underperforming it, which is really, really, really bad. I'm not going to try. I'm not wishing Nintendo to fail. I call myself the console king, which means that I wish that all consoles succeed. But you gotta call out bullshit when bullshit is there, I'm just calling it as it is. If Nintendo fanboys don't like that, well, I'm sorry, but you need to criticize these companies, because if you don't criticize them and you just damage control the entire time, then nothing new is ever going to change. If there was no criticism about the Wii U, if people didn't attack the Wii U, then the Switch probably would have been shit. I'm not saying it's not shit, but I'm just saying it would have been even shittier than it might be. I don't know. People are saying, well, Switch is great because Breath of the Wild is an amazing game and whatever, but Hold up. Why are you talking about how great the Switch's launch is and citing Breath of the Wild when Breath of the Wild is available on the Wii U? And guess what? The Switch version and the Wii U version, I mean, sure, the Switch version looks a little bit better, but it's literally the same game, right? Because there's some remasters where, the game has, more features because it has more capabilities and shit, but literally you're playing the exact same game. If you have a Wii U, you literally have no reason to buy a Switch, because the main reason people cite for buying a Switch is because of Breath of the Wild. But if you have a Wii U, you can play Breath of the Wild. Just saying. It might be more ideal to play it on the Switch, but it's still available on the Wii U, and it's really the only game on the Wii U people are talking about. I don't hear people talking about ARMS and 1-2 Switch, because those are exclusives on the Switch. If that's a very good thing to brag about, I don't know. But objectively speaking, those are exclusives. They have a few exclusives that came out, but the only exclusive people are talking about is Breath of the Wild. Understandably so, because Zelda's a huge franchise, but nevertheless. I just, you got to be objective about this, and I'm very objective with everything. I'm not biased. I just tell it how it is. So that's what I want to say about the Switch's launch and Zelda and whatnot. Also, it appears that the version of Skyrim that's coming out on the Switch is going to be the original version from the PS3 and 360. That's what it seems like, at least. That's what's been rumored lately. I don't know if it's true, but all I do know is that they will never have a version of Skyrim on the Switch that is on par with the PS4 and Xbox One version. I mean, it's less powerful than the PS4 and Xbox One. How do you expect it to be the special edition, right? I hope it's a special edition in the sense that it comes with all the DLC, but in terms of the actual graphical capabilities, it won't be no special edition, okay? It won't. I know a lot of people are very unhappy about that, but it's just the truth. I mean, don't be mad at me for saying the truth. Be mad at Nintendo for what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why people get so mad of me saying logical things and saying factual things. Because people got so triggered whenever I said anything bad about the Switch, and whenever I pointed out that, look, the version of Skyrim is not going to be on par with the PS4 and Xbox One versions. But we'll see how it is. At the very least, hopefully the Switch version of Skyrim gets mods, but who knows? That might be very unlikely as well. But we'll see. The fact that Todd Howard never even bothered to confirm whether or not Skyrim Special Edition or the original Skyrim is going to be the version that the Switch gets is very puzzling to me. And it's very... It just shows that the Switch is already off on the weak start, and that we're probably not going to get the special edition of Skyrim if Todd Howard didn't confirm it. He'd have no reason not to confirm it if that was actually what was coming. What's the point of keeping it a surprise? He probably said he's not sure because he doesn't want Switch owners to panic, I guess. I don't know. But whatever the version of Skyrim is on the Switch, all I can say is don't blame Bethesda, blame Nintendo for whatever version comes out. It's obviously not going to be Bethesda's fault. It's going to be Nintendo's fault for having an underpowered piece of hardware. So the last thing I want to talk about related to the Switch is the fact that scalpers are selling the Switch for ridiculous prices. On eBay, there's some listings right now for the Switch that come, instead of the price, which the original price was just $300, people are selling it for $500, $600. And I guess some of them are even selling it for even more. Now, people are complaining about this, saying that it's such a terrible thing. These people are terrible. And I never understood that, why people like to attack scalpers so much, right? You would think that people would blame the actual companies for not having enough supply to meet with the demand, rather than the people who are capitalizing on the fact that there are not enough units for the demand, right? So what I mean by that, okay, why aren't people mad at Nintendo for there not being enough Switches, rather than instead focusing on their efforts on being mad at scalpers for selling the version of the Switch, for selling the Switch at a much higher price than it's worth, right? What do you expect them to do? What the hell do you expect them to do? People are willing to pay that much money. The supply is low and the demand is high. To people who do not understand basic economics and capitalism, if the supply is low and the demand is high, the prices are higher. Yeah. So why are people getting so mad over people trying to profit off of, honestly, something that's Nintendo's fault for not having enough units available? You should be mad at Nintendo, not mad at scalpers and capitalism. You know what I mean? Like, shit, I don't understand what this frustration, like, why people are outraged over this shit. I see people like Review Tech and other people on the internet that talk about how terrible these people are and how it's awful. And I'm like, what do you expect? What do you people expect? I don't get it. I really don't get it. What the outrage is for. Like, I understand people want to be able to buy the system at $300 because that's what the system is supposed to be advertised for. And that's how much the system should cost because that's the MSRP. For the Switch, it's the suggested retail price by Microsoft. So, I don't know what the outrage is for. I really don't. But anyway, let's move on to the last topic. I'm going to talk, well, actually 2 more topics. So the first topic I want to discuss is the PlayStation VR, okay? I've said before that I don't really care about about VR gaming. I think it's a passing fad, just like the Wii motion controls and whatnot. I don't really see it being a huge success, right? Like being something that's going to have a lasting impact on the industry. I just don't see it happening, okay? But the PlayStation VR sold 915,000 units as of February 19th. So that's cool, I guess, that the PlayStation VR is selling a shit ton of units. Because as far as I know, I think it's selling more on I think the VR is more successful than the other VR systems. Like, I think the PlayStation VR is probably the most successful VR system in the market right now because the HTC Vive and all these other systems cost like double, triple the amount of the PlayStation VR. So, yeah, that sucks. But it is what it is. I'm not saying that the PlayStation VR is the best VR headset because probably objectively speaking, it's not. Okay, it's not. But for the price range, it's pretty good. Obviously, if almost 1 million units have been sold, that it's pretty good. So that's just something I thought was worth mentioning, that the PlayStation VR is doing really good. I don't really care for VR that much. I never tried VR just because I have no interest in it. I think it's just something that just appeals too much to casual gamers and to... I just think it's a fad. I just don't think it's... I just think it's something that's hot and it's trending right now, but I don't think it's gonna have a lasting impact on the industry. I don't. I'm not saying that it's bad or that's not good. I just don't think it's worth the amount that it's being, charged for, if that makes any sense. I don't think it's worth the price range. Maybe the PlayStation VR might be, but what I've noticed about these VR-only games are that they're mostly shovelware products. These VR-exclusive games are pretty shit so far. I've never heard of a game that's only on VR that's good. I mean, if we're talking about an actual game that has VR functionality, then that's something. But other than that, I mean, VR-only games are pretty shit. Like Office Simulator, that was one of them, and there's a whole bunch of other games I saw. Or no, not Office Simulator, Job Simulator. And then a whole bunch of other VR-exclusive games. There was a Until Dawn VR-only game. It's like, what the fuck? Like, Until Dawn's such an amazing game, and then they make this VR-only garbage. Like, ugh. But, like I said, most of these VR-only games are pretty shit. But, I don't know. We'll see what the future holds. I could be 100% wrong. I'm not saying that my word is gospel and that everything I say is correct, but I do have a good feeling about... I have a good feeling that I'm probably going to be right, though. So, last topic. Let's talk about this PlayStation Legion bullshit, okay? Let's talk about JTech. So, to anyone who follows my Twitter, they would know that I got a debate request from JTech TV after I made that not so nice video about him in the PlayStation Legion. And he said that I will debate you. Okay, so he said this on Wednesday. I will debate you tomorrow at 11 a.m., which is Thursday at 11 a.m. on PlayStation. And I'm just thinking to myself, first of all, what the hell does this person even want me to debate about? Like, I don't get it. Like, what do you want to debate me for? Because there's really nothing worth debating with JTech TV at this point. Like, I don't understand what he wants to debate me with. I think he just wants to have me debate him so he gets, more attention from me, because my channel is hotter than his right now. He has more subscribers, but in terms of, views and the amount of subscribers I gain per month, he gains like 50 subscribers a month. I gain like 90 subscribers a month. And he might get more views than me, but generally speaking, I'm more trendy. I'm trending more than JTech TV is, so I guess he's just trying to capitalize off of that. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care about JTech anymore. He is what he is. He's just pathetic. I've made that very clear, what I think about him. He's just very pathetic. And why the hell am I going to cut school just to debate some fucking moron over, I don't even know what I'm debating about. But even if I did, even if fucking Rags wanted to debate me or anyone else wanted to debate me, I'm not going to fucking skip school to debate someone. I've never heard of someone that doesn't have anything to do on a weekday morning, 11 a.m., that has nothing to do. Never heard of that before from anyone. Even people with no lives usually have something to do at that time, whether it's, school or work or whatever. But this person just sits on his PlayStation all day, and it's fucking pathetic. Very pathetic. Man. This community sometimes makes me cringe. That's all I have to say about that. But we've been going on for almost a half hour already. I pretty much said everything I need to say. Let's just go through my list. I've gone through everything I wanted to go through. I looked at the hottest news stories of the week, and those were the only ones I felt that were worth mentioning. I didn't really see anything else that was really relevant, because the only thing people are talking about this week is either the Game Pass or the Switch launch or any of the other shit. But, mostly they're talking about those two things, and there's nothing really else newsworthy to talk about in my podcast. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It was a pretty good podcast, very peaceful. I like having podcasts without guests. It's very cool, very, very peaceful, very nice. But I think I've pretty much gone through everything I wanted to go through. So with that said, I'm going to thank you guys for tuning in, like always, and I'll see you guys later.